Priya has not skipped a single retirement contribution in 11 years. She works Saturdays when she doesn't have to, turns down vacations to keep her savings rate high, and at 39, she still can't tell you when she'll be allowed to stop. Jasmine stopped 4 years ago. She was 31. She redirected every dollar she used to save toward her mortgage and her kids' accounts instead, and she has not looked back once. By the rules most people are taught, Jasmine made a reckless decision, and Priya made a responsible one. But run the actual math on both of their situations, and the opposite might be true. One of them is almost certainly wasting years of unnecessary sacrifice. The other might be walking into a shortfall she hasn't planned for. The problem is that neither of them, and probably not you either, has ever calculated the one number that actually settles this. Most retirement planning revolves around a single target: the full amount you need to retire and never work again. But there is a second number hiding inside the math of compound growth, one that marks the exact point where saving another dollar stops changing your outcome at all. Today we are going to calculate that number using nothing but the underlying mechanics and find out which of these two people actually got it right. Ask most people how they will know when they can stop saving for retirement, and you will get some version of the same answer. They will tell you about a number, usually a large one, calculated by taking their expected annual spending and multiplying it by 25. This is the 4% rule, and it produces what is called the full financial independence number. It is the amount of money that, withdrawn responsibly, would let someone live off their investments forever without ever earning another paycheck. This number is not wrong. It genuinely is the amount required to retire completely and never work again. The problem is that almost nobody actually needs to reach it through savings alone. Every dollar sitting in an investment account is not just sitting there. It is compounding, quietly, in the background, without requiring another contribution from you. And if there is enough time left before retirement, that compounding does something remarkable. It finishes the job on its own. This creates a strange kind of trap. People are taught to chase one enormous number, the full financial independence figure, and they assume the only way to get there is to keep contributing every single year until they cross the finish line. But that assumption skips a step. It ignores the fact that a smaller amount of money, invested early enough, can grow into that same enormous number without another dollar ever being added. So the real question is not how much money someone needs to retire. The real question is how much money they need invested right now such that growth alone finishes the rest of the job for them. That number has a name. It is called the coast number, and almost nobody has ever calculated it for themselves. Not because the math is hard, but because nobody ever tells them this number exists in the first place. To understand why this second number exists, it helps to look at what compound growth actually does to money over time, rather than treating it as an abstract concept. In the earliest years of investing, almost all of a portfolio's growth comes from new contributions. If someone invests $18,000 a year and their portfolio earns 7% in year one, that 7% return on a small balance barely registers next to the new contribution being added. The contribution is doing the heavy lifting, but every year the balance that is already invested gets a little larger, and every year 7% of a larger number is a larger number. At some point, without any change in behavior, the growth generated by money already invested becomes larger than the new money being contributed. From that point forward, contributions start mattering less and less, even if the person keeps making them at exactly the same rate. This is the mechanism behind what is sometimes called the compounding curve, and it explains why early progress in investing can feel painfully slow, while later progress feels almost automatic. It is not that the math changes. It is that the base the math is working on gets larger, and a fixed percentage of a larger base produces a larger absolute result. Now stretch this idea forward to its logical endpoint. If growth alone can eventually outpace contributions, then there must be some amount of money invested at some number of years before retirement that will grow entirely on its own into the full financial independence number, with zero additional contributions required. That amount is the coast number. It is not a motivational concept or a lifestyle philosophy. It is a specific dollar figure, calculable with the exact same compound interest math used to calculate everything else in personal finance. The reason this number gets ignored is that it depends on two things most people never combine in their head at the same time: how much time is left until retirement, and how much compounding that time allows. The less time remaining, the closer the coast number sits to the full financial independence number, because there is less time for growth to do the work. The more time remaining, the smaller the coast number becomes, sometimes dramatically smaller, because compounding is given decades instead of years to finish the job. This is why the same underlying math can tell one person they are years away from being done saving, and tell another person they crossed that line without ever noticing. Calculating this number requires only two pieces of information beyond how much someone plans to spend each year in retirement. The first is the number of years remaining until retirement. The second is the assumed real rate of return, meaning the growth rate after inflation is accounted for. For this video, that assumption is set at 7% real return, which reflects the long-run historical average for a diversified stock portfolio after inflation. The safe withdrawal rate used to calculate the full financial independence number is set at 4%, which is the standard, well-documented assumption behind the 25 times rule. Using those two assumptions, it is possible to build a multiplier that converts a person's annual expenses directly into their coast number without needing to calculate their full financial independence number separately first. This multiplier changes based entirely on how many years remain until retirement, and it changes in a very specific, mathematically predictable way. With 40 years remaining until retirement, the multiplier is 1.67. Someone spending $60,000 a year in retirement would need just over $100,000 invested today, and growth alone would carry the rest. With 30 years remaining, the multiplier rises to 3.28. With 20 years remaining, it rises again to 6.46. With 10 years remaining, it climbs sharply to 12.71. And with only 5 years remaining, the multiplier reaches 17.82, which starts to approach the full 25 times figure because there simply is not much time left for compounding to do independent work. Notice what is happening in this progression. The multiplier does not increase evenly. It grows slowly at first and then accelerates as retirement gets closer, because less remaining time means growth has less room to compound. This is why coasting works so much better for someone in their 20s or 30s than it does for someone 5 years from retirement. It is not a fairness issue. It is simply how compound interest behaves when the clock is running down. To calculate an individual coast number, the process has 3 steps, and they are worth walking through in order rather than skipping straight to the multiplier table. First, calculate the full financial independence number by taking annual retirement expenses and multiplying by 25. Second, identify how many years remain until the planned retirement age. Third, divide the full financial independence number by 1.07, raised to the power of however many years remain. That result is the coast number, the exact dollar amount needed invested today for growth alone to finish the job. This calculation does not care about someone's income, their job title, or how disciplined they feel about saving. It only cares about 3 inputs: expenses, time, and the rate at which money compounds. Which means 2 people with identical incomes and identical savings habits can have wildly different coast numbers, and 2 people who feel like they are in completely different financial situations, one still grinding, one who quietly stopped years ago, might actually be standing in nearly the same spot, without either of them realizing it. Start with Priya, since her situation is the one most people would assume is fine by default. She is 39 years old, plans to retire at 65, and expects to spend $65,000 a year in retirement, in today's dollars. That puts her full financial independence number at $1,625,000, using the 25 times rule. She began contributing $18,000 a year to her investments at age 28 and has not missed a single year since. Running her actual account balance forward year by year, alongside the coast number required at each of those ages, produces a very specific answer. At age 36, with 29 years left until retirement, her required coast number was $228,415. Her actual balance at that point was $215,604. She was close, but not there yet. By age 37, with 28 years remaining, the required number dropped to $244,404 because she now had one fewer year for compounding to work with. Her actual balance had grown to $248,696. For the first time, her balance was larger than what was required. That is the crossing point. At 37 years old, Priya's portfolio, left completely untouched from that day forward, was already on track to compound into her full financial independence number by 65. She did not need to contribute another dollar. She is 39 now. That means she has spent 2 additional years working Saturdays, turning down vacations, and maintaining a savings rate that was, by that point, no longer changing her retirement outcome in any meaningful way. Her current balance stands at $321,992, against a current requirement of $279,818, a surplus of over $42,000 that she is carrying for no mathematical reason. This is not a story about Priya doing something wrong in the sense of harming her finances. Her retirement is, if anything, in excellent shape. The problem is what she gave up to get 2 years past a finish line she never knew existed. 2 years of Saturdays, 2 years of vacations turned down for a savings rate that stopped mattering before she was 38. The math did not require any of that. She simply never ran it. Now turn to Jasmine, the one most people would assume made the riskier call. She started contributing $12,000 a year to her investments at age 24, expecting to spend $55,000 a year in retirement, which puts her full financial independence number at $1,375,000. She kept contributing for 7 years until age 31, at which point her balance stood at $103,848. That is when she stopped, redirecting that money toward her mortgage and her children's accounts instead, and has not contributed to her retirement investments since. She is 35 now, 4 years past that decision. With no further contributions, pure compounding alone has carried her balance to $136,124. That sounds like healthy growth, and it is. The problem is what the coast number actually requires at her current age. With 30 years remaining until her planned retirement at 65, her required coast number right now is $180,630. Her actual balance of $136,124 falls $44,506 short of that figure. This is the part that should be uncomfortable to hear because it means Jasmine stopped 4 years too early. Not recklessly early, and not by a small margin either. If her balance is simply left alone from here, compounding on its own for the remaining 30 years, it will reach approximately $1,036,210 by the time she turns 65. That is $338,790 short of the $1,375,000 target she is actually going to need. She does not know this yet. From where she sits, she made a values-based decision 4 years ago and has felt good about it every year since, because her account balance keeps going up. Nothing about her monthly statements tells her that going up is not the same thing as being on track. Both are true, and only one of them matters for whether she can actually retire at 65. The good news, and it is worth stating clearly because this is not a story about panic, is that the gap is closable, and closable without dramatic sacrifice. Resuming contributions of just $4,000 a year, starting now, projects forward to $1,414,053 by 65. Which clears her target with room to spare. That is roughly $330 a month, considerably less than what she was contributing before she stopped, and more than enough to convert a real math-confirmed shortfall into a real math-confirmed surplus. This is where Marcus enters the picture, the one who ran the actual numbers before making any decision at all. Both of these stories point to the same underlying lesson, which is that intuition about saving for retirement is almost never reliable in either direction. Priya's instinct was to keep going no matter what, treating more saving as automatically safer saving. Jasmine's instinct was that if the account was growing, the plan was working. Neither instinct is careless. Both are simply untethered from the actual number that determines whether either strategy succeeds. This is where the calculation itself becomes the entire strategy, rather than a feeling about discipline or risk tolerance. Someone approaching this the correct way, does not ask whether they feel like they are saving enough. They calculate their full financial independence number using their real expected expenses. They identify exactly how many years remain until their planned retirement age. They apply the coast multiplier for that specific number of years, and then they compare that result to their actual current balance, not their savings rate, not their income, their actual invested balance today. If the actual balance already exceeds the required coast number, continuing to contribute at the same intensity is optional, not required, and every dollar and every hour spent maintaining that intensity beyond that point is a choice, not a necessity. If the actual balance falls short of the required coast number, the account may still be growing every month, but growing is not the same as being on track, and the shortfall needs to be addressed with real contributions, not assumptions. This is the version of the math that neither oversaves out of habit nor undersaves out of optimism. It treats the coast number as a moving target that gets recalculated as circumstances change, rather than a decision made once and never revisited. Someone's coast number today is not their coast number in 5 years, because both the years remaining and the required balance shift every single year, compounding forward in exactly the pattern shown earlier in the multiplier table. This also means the correct approach is not a calculation performed once and then filed away. Someone coasting confidently at a multiplier of 1.67 does not get to treat that multiplier as permanent. 10 years later, the multiplier tied to their new number of years remaining will have grown substantially, and their actual balance needs to be checked against that new figure, not the one calculated a decade earlier. Coasting is not a status someone earns once and keeps forever. It is a relationship between a balance and a shrinking runway, and that relationship has to be rechecked as the runway gets shorter. The uncomfortable truth buried inside both of these stories is that most people are closer to one of these two outcomes than they think, and have simply never done the arithmetic to find out which one. Not because the arithmetic is difficult, it requires 3 numbers and 1 multiplication. It is because almost nobody is ever told this second number exists in the first place, buried underneath decades of advice that only ever talks about the first one. The math in this video used Priya and Jasmine's specific numbers, but the same 3 steps apply to any income, any expense level, and any retirement timeline. The multiplier table shown earlier gives a rough estimate for round numbers of years remaining. But because retirement age, current age, expected expenses, and even passive income sources all shift the result in ways a fixed table cannot capture precisely, a dedicated calculator exists that runs this exact math using someone's specific numbers, rather than the nearest round year. That calculator is available as part of this channel's membership community, alongside the rest of the growing library of tools built the same way every figure in this video was built, verified against the underlying math rather than estimated. Running the numbers takes a few minutes, and the result either shows someone they are further along than they realized, or that a small adjustment now avoids a much larger one later. Either answer is worth having, and neither one is available by feeling, only by calculating.